In today's video, we will make an apple pie that is rustic, full of flavor and character. You may not know this, but my husband is American and he's actually a southern gentleman and he loves pies and I love making them. So I remember the first time I made an apple pie and I ended up making 3 in one day. I got too excited. I love baking, and when I saw that I made an apple pie, I was like, oh my gosh, I can make more. Anyways, we kept 2 and gave one away to an American couple that used to live here, and those pies were really good. But since then I learned so much more, and I'm very happy to share with you my foolproof recipe for an apple pie. So let's get started. For the apples, you need to use ones that can hold their shape while baking. I cored and peeled 4 pounds of apples, that's about 2 kilos. To cut them, I used an apple cutter. And then I sliced them into thin slices, about half a centimeter, or I think that's a 1/4 inch thick. Add 1 teaspoon of lemon zest and the juice of half a lemon, which comes to 1 tablespoon. Add the zest and juice of 1 orange, and it's better to use a sweet variety here. Acid is going to prevent the apples from turning brown, and the zest and juice of the lemon and the oranges is going to give us a nice zesty flavor that will pair very well with the apples. So before adding the sugar, make sure you taste the apples. You want to know how much sugar you're going to need. And here I tasted the apples and they were very sweet, so I only added a 1/4 cup, and that's 55 grams of sugar. When you add spices, you should think what will complement the apples. So here I added 1 teaspoon of cinnamon because of its sweet and spicy flavor that will enhance the taste of the fruit. And cinnamon is also used to mellow down the tartness of apples. I also like to add a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and the warm, sweet flavor of allspice will give us that extra boost of flavors. I am obsessed with nutmeg, especially fresh nutmeg, so whenever I can add it, I will definitely do it. It's sweet, but it's slightly bitter, and it adds character to the fruit. But a little bit goes a long way, so I only grate about a 1/4 teaspoon. And let's not forget about the salt. We need about a 1/4 teaspoon, and it will make the filling taste sweeter, and it will just lift all the other flavors. Now you need to mix all those apples very well and let them soak all that goodness. If you want to have that perfect bottom crust that will not be soggy when you add the filling, let's wait a little bit on adding the apples. So cover the apples with a saran wrap and let them release their juices for about an hour, or even you can leave them overnight. Now let's move on to the crust, and I have a whole video explaining step by step how to make your own crust from scratch, so make sure to check the description box below. I will leave a link for you to check that video. Dust your work surface with some flour and dust the rolling pin as well. When you roll the crust, roll from the middle outward and turn the dough to keep it from sticking and keep it evenly round. When you're done rolling the bottom crust, use the rolling pin to turn it and lift it to the pie dish. I like to use a glass pie dish because I can see the bottom and I can know if the crust is cooked or not. No one wants an uncooked crust. So put the dough in the pie dish and press it gently. Leave about an inch around the edge and cut the excess with scissors. Another tip to make sure that you get a beautiful bottom crust that will not be soggy later when you add the filling is to put it in the freezer for about 20 or 30 minutes before you add the filling. That way it will firm up, especially after we handle it with our hands while rolling it. Now for the top crust, do the same thing. Roll it and put it on a flat baking sheet or on a plate and put it in the fridge until we need it so the butter can firm up again. I use the excess dough to cut out using a cookie cutter the shape of 4 leaves so I can decorate the crust with it later. Back to the apples. So pour the juice out of the bowl and put it in a saucepan. Add 2 tablespoons of butter, and we will let it simmer on low-medium heat until it's reduced to a thick syrup. That should take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how much juice you're going to have from the apples. And in the meantime, add 1.5 tablespoons of flour. You can also use cornstarch. This will thicken up the juices of the apples while they bake. Now that we have everything ready, we take out the bottom crust and the top crust and we add the filling. Make sure you have the middle part a little bit higher than the sides. Once it's reduced and ready, remove 1 tablespoon of the syrup, we'll use that later, and pour the rest over the apple. Of course, this is after the juice or the syrup cooled down. By this we gain 3 things. First, the condensed flavors of all those glorious spices. Second, now the apple juice is thickened and it's not watery anymore, so it will not make the bottom crust soggy. Third, the apples will not cook down that much, so you will not have the empty space between the top crust and the filling. Cover it with the top crust, crimp the edge and tuck it in. With 2 fingers on one side and 2 on the other side, or however you want to do it, pinch the dough to make a fluted edge. On the top crust, using a knife or scissors, make 4 slits to let the steam escape. Now if you made those leaves from the excess dough, brush them with some water to glue them to the crust and put them in between those slits. One more step as a precaution is to pop the whole pie in the freezer for 30 minutes before you bake it. I only leave it for 30 minutes, but actually you can make this pie days or even months ahead and put it all like that and baked in the freezer. And whenever you need to have an apple pie, just pop it in the oven immediately from the freezer. No need to let it thaw, and it will cook beautifully. Now while the pie is in the freezer, preheat the oven to 425 Fahrenheit, and that's 220 Celsius. If you're really serious about baking and you want to always get a great product, you have to invest in an oven thermometer. Most ovens are not calibrated. Some run cold, some run hot. Mine actually runs very hot, so the thermometers comes very handy. Back to the pie. Put it on a baking sheet. Do you remember that leftover syrup that I told you to keep it on the side? Well, we're going to use that to brush the top of the crust, and that syrup is going to give us a deep golden brown color and just a great flavor from top to bottom. And pop it in the oven for 10 minutes and then reduce the temperature to 375 Fahrenheit, and that's 180 Celsius. And it should bake for 30 or 40 more minutes. You will know when it's done when you see the crust, a golden brown color, and when you insert a knife in the filling, it will be soft but not mushy. Now let the glorious pie rest for at least 3 hours before you cut it. I know it's hard, but trust me, the filling is going to thicken up more and it's going to taste even better. Now this pie was gone by the next day, and there's only me and my husband in this house. That's how good it was. I mean, look at that pie. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you can give this recipe a try. And if you have some more tips and tricks on how to make the perfect apple pie, please do share and comment below. Like I said before, this platform is for learning and sharing. And don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you soon with another delicious recipe. Bye!